All right, on to our next game of Marvel Champions. Today we are going to be going just next alphabetically, so we're going to be playing as our next hero in alphabetical order, which is one of the brand new heroes from the Age of Apocalypse expansion that just came out. And it just so happens that the next villain alphabetically is also Apocalypse. So we played against Apocalypse last time, but that was the first version of Apocalypse that comes in the Age of Apocalypse box. This version of Apocalypse is the final boss, final villain in the Age of Apocalypse boss. And the cool thing about him is that he is similar to Angel, Ant-Man, and Wasp, where instead of just having a normal card, he's got one of these cool unfolding cards. So throughout the game, he will be changing between these three different forms when certain cards tell him to do so, and then there's also a timer that will trigger him doing that as well. So at the beginning of the game, he starts in this biomorph form, and then on this side, it is a cyberpath, and then the large one is the giant form. And so those are the three different forms. And so he's going to start in this biomorph form. The next two are the next modular encounter sets that I'm using today. I needed to use two today because on the backside of the setup card here, it says that we need to use two modular encounter sets. Normally you would use Celestial Tech and Clan Akaba. Instead, I am going to be using the next two that are in alphabetical order, which are going to be the Armies of Titan and the Band of Badoon. So we are going to have lots of minions today. So we have the Band of Badoon is from the Guardians of the Galaxy expansion, Galaxy's Most Wanted. And I believe every card in that encounter set is a minion. So we're going to have lots of minions. And then the Armies of Titan is from the Thanos expansion, I believe, the Mad Titan's Shadow. And I think most of those are also minions. So we're going to have a very minion-heavy deck today, which makes me wish that we were playing one of the characters that is a minion specialist, like someone like Thor or Valkyrie or Rocket or somebody like that who are really good at going against minions. But that's just part of the challenge of this thing that I'm doing, is that the matchups are not going to necessarily be ideal because we're just playing through things in order and seeing what happens. So the other part of setup that I had to do is that I had to deal myself a encounter card to start with. So I will have to have two encounter cards during the first round. And then the only other thing on the setup is that he starts with his biomorph form in play, which we had already talked about. On the front side of his scheme that he's trying to complete here, it says after resolving step one of the villain phase, which is when you place threat on here, he will gain one power counter. And then if there's at least 4 power counters, we remove 4 of them and discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a superpower card is discarded. And a lot of his superpower cards are the cards that cause him to change form. So let me see here, for example. So this one here is called Giant Sized Despot, and it's a superpower. And when revealed, it says if Apocalypse is in giant form, he activates against you. Otherwise, change Apocalypse to giant form and place 1 power counter on the main scheme. So most of his superpower cards are going to be the ones that deal with him changing into his different forms. So he's guaranteed to change form every once in a while, every 4 turns at least, possibly more often if he gains power counters from other cards. And then he's also got cards that will just force him to change, even if it hasn't already been 4 turns. Otherwise, how to take him out is very normal compared to most villains. It's just basically knock him down to 0 health and then do that again a second time. It's a little less convoluted than the first Apocalypse scenario, where you have to kill the prelate minion and then thwart that side scheme, which then puts another prelate minion in play, and then thwart a side scheme, and then you have to do that like 4 times before you can actually attack Apocalypse in that one. In this one, you just can go at him right away. All right, let me shuffle the encounter deck up a little bit since I was showing you guys some cards from it. All right, put that back. All right. And then when Dara and I played through the campaign, she played as Magic, which is the other character that comes in this campaign box, and I actually played as Bishop. So I've played him quite a few times at this point. This will be, I think, like my 7th or 8th time playing him today. So hopefully that means I'll make fewer mistakes. But I did modify his deck since the last time I played it, so that might change things as well. I'm trying a slightly different angle today to try to get more stuff on the camera. So I'm kind of setting my deck all the way off to the side because you don't really need to see my deck. You mostly just need to see other stuff. So let me know if this is better or not. Okay. So Bishop's whole thing is that he likes to deal with resource cards. So on his hero side, whenever he takes damage, you have the option of discarding cards from your deck equal to the amount of damage that you took. And when you do that, if you discard any resource cards, you get to add them to your hand. So he likes to have resource cards. And then on his alter ego side, he lets you take a specific type of card from your discard pile back to your hand. And the specific type of card he lets you pull back is called a temporal card. And a lot of his resource cards that come with his deck have that temporal keyword. But he's also got other cards that have that are not resource cards. So he's got this card here that's not a resource card that has that. So it's a way to get cards back. So he likes to have lots of resource cards. And then he'll be discarding them from the top of his deck. And I'm going to go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to spend that resource card. It gives me 2 resources. So I'm going to spend that. And I'm going to use those 2 resources to play Bishop's uniform because I have not gotten to start a game with him with this in play, and it just seems like way too good to not start it if I can. So what this does is, so we talked about before, when he takes damage, he can discard cards from his deck, and then any resource cards he discards go back to his hand. Then this card would trigger, and it says after you resolve that ability, you heal him 1 damage for each resource card that's in your hand. So those are obviously those are 2 abilities that are meant to go together. I have gotten this card in play a couple times while playing as him, but I've never gotten it at the beginning of the game right away. So this is going to make taking damage a lot less bad. However, one thing that has been happening to me while I've been playing Bishop is I have had a ton of times where I discard cards off the top of my deck and I just don't get any resource cards. One thing that is nice, and this is something that I was playing badly when I was playing as Bishop during the campaign, is that this ability where you can discard cards off the top of your deck when you take damage is not a forced ability, it's optional. So if I only take 1 damage, I don't have to discard that 1 card. I could wait until I take a bigger amount of damage, like let's say I take 4 or 5 damage. I could wait until I take that bigger amount of damage just to increase the odds of actually grabbing a resource card from that discard. Also, at the beginning of the game, it's really important that you know how many resource cards you have in your deck with him, so that if they're all in your discard pile, you know that they're all in your discard pile, and you don't want to discard cards off the top of your deck if you know all your resource cards are already discarded. So in this particular deck that I have built for him, I forgot to count, so let's just do that real quick. I've got 1 that I played, looks like I've got 11 resource cards. Let me count one more time. 1, Yep. So it looks like I have 11. So since I looked through my deck, I'll shuffle it real quick. And I'm not sure what the optimal number of resource cards would be. Obviously, you don't want to make too many of your cards resource cards because you only have a 40 card deck. So you wouldn't want to make more than half, I would guess, resource cards because you need to actually have cards that you can play, not just cards that are resources. So I'm sure somebody has done the math on exactly what the optimal amount of resource cards would be. But again, I'm just following those pre-made decks that are on Board Game Geek. So I did not build this deck myself. So I'm just following that deck list and going with it. This is actually the first time I've played with this exact set of cards for this deck. I just played with the Bishop deck that comes pre-constructed in the campaign box when we played through the campaign. So this is my first time playing this exact construction of this deck. So we'll see how it goes. So I've got that in play. And then my alter ego action is to take a temporal card after from my discard pile back to my hand. But I can only do that when I change to this form. So if we look at this card, it says, after you change to this form, add a temporal card in your discard pile to your hand. So I can't get this card that I just discarded back yet. I'll have to wait until I come back to alter ego form later. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and change to hero form because I don't have anything else that I can do in alter ego form. And then I am going to spend 2 resources to put an ally card into play, and I am going to put the Pixie ally card into play. She says after you play Pixie from your hand, add an X-Men ally from your discard pile to your hand. I don't have one right now, but it's just good to have her out. So I don't have any X-Men allies in my discard pile at the moment, so she'll just come out. And then I'm going to use her to thwart for 1. So I'll tap her and use her to thwart for 1, which means she will take 1 consequential damage, and I will remove the 1 threat from the main scheme that we started with. And then I'm going to use Bishop to attack for 2 and bring Apocalypse down to 14. I guess we didn't super talk about what Apocalypse has right now. So right now what he has is when he's in biomorph form, he gains overkill. So if he attacks me and I use my ally to block it, then any damage that's left over will be given to me. And then if he changes to this form, he will deal damage to us. So he didn't change to this form, he just started in this form. So far, nothing on there matters all that much, other than just the overkill, which will matter if I choose to block with Pixie. Okay, so I believe I've done everything I can for this first turn, so I'm going to go ahead and ready all of my cards that I have in play, and then draw up to my hand size, which is 5. So I'll draw up to 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is one of the things that kept happening to me when I was playing as Bishop in the campaign. I would draw my hand and I would get all these resource cards. So I have 5 cards and 3 of them are resource cards when it's about to be the time to have him deal damage to me and discard cards. And then I wouldn't get any resource cards. But since I have this card Bishop's Uniform in play, if I trigger his ability and discard cards but don't get any, I still have 3 in my hand, so I would get to heal 3 damage back. So basically, I have 3 defense right now. Now, that wouldn't necessarily be the case if I was at 3 health, because you take the damage first, discard the cards, and then heal. So if I only had 3 health and took 3 damage, I wouldn't get to say, oh, I have 3 resource cards in my hand, I don't die. You would go down to 0 and then you would die, and you would have to heal after. So you still have to be a little bit careful, but at the beginning of the game when I'm at full health, it's not as big of a deal. So, all right, so it goes to his turn now. So he is going to get his +1 threat, and then he gets his 1 power token. And then he is going to attack me since I'm in hero form. So he's going to attack me for 2 plus a card. And since his attacks have overkill, I don't want to use my ally to defend it. I'm going to keep her around for other things. And then I'm going to have him just directly attack me. That way I'm not going to lose this ally and then take damage anyway. So I'm also not going to defend it. I'm just going to have it trigger my bishop's uniform. So he's going to attack me for 2 plus a card. So he's going to attack me for 2 plus, and then he's going to put Badoon Grunt into play, engaged with me. So this doesn't increase his attack at all. He's just going to have this go in front of me. So we'll set that down. So he's going to do 2 damage to me. And so that means I could discard the top card of my deck, or the top 2 cards of my deck, and if any of them are resource cards, I could add them to my hand. But since I already have 3 resource cards in my hand, I'm not going to do that because I'm going to take 2 damage. And then I guess in order to trigger his bishop's uniform, I have to, because this says this is his energy absorption ability, and his uniform says after resolving his energy absorption ability. So it looks like I have to do that. So I guess I will trigger his energy absorption ability, and I will discard 2 cards off the top of my deck. The first one is a resource card. The second one, oh man, also a resource card. I'm getting lucky. All right, so then I can trigger his uniform. So it says after you resolve Bishop's energy absorption ability, exhaust Bishop's uniform and heal 1 damage from Bishop for each resource card in your hand. I now have 5 resource cards in my hand, so I could heal 5, but I'll run into my maximum of 12, so I'll only get to heal 2. Okay, then we need to finish resolving the Badoon Grunt. So it says after Badoon Grunt engages you, if there are no other minions engaged with you, deal yourself 1 face down encounter card. So I'm going to have to get myself another encounter card. So I'm going to have to deal with 3 encounter cards this round. All right, so I've got that Badoon Grunt in front of me. Okay, so then I'm going to deal myself my 3rd encounter card, and then we're going to resolve these. So here's the first one that I started the game with. So my first one, Badoon Warlord. His attacks gain overkill, so we already talked about what that means. So if he attacks if I have one of my allies defend his attack, the leftover damage will come to me. Okay. Second one is Shadows of the Past. We haven't had a chance to talk about this yet. So Shadow of the Past is how you are going to pull in your hero-specific Nemesis set. So each hero comes with these set-aside cards at the beginning of the game, and these only come into play if Shadow of the Past comes into play. So this is going to get discarded, and then my hero-specific Nemesis is this minion here, and he's going to come into play, and he's going to sit in front of me. Then each hero has a specific side scheme that goes with their Nemesis, and that's going to come into play, so we're going to set that here with our schemes. And then the rest of the cards, there's usually 3 more cards that are after that. Those are going to get shuffled into the encounter deck. There are some heroes that have a little bit different way of doing this. So like Venom has, instead of just having 1 minion as his Nemesis minion, he's got a bunch of copies of the symbiote. So basically the Venom symbiote is angry, and there's a bunch of copies of it. But for the most part, the way that the hero Nemesis sets are going to work is there's a Nemesis minion, there is a side scheme, and then there is 3 more cards that get shuffled into the deck that are going to play on the themes of the hero and their things. So the minion that Nemesis has is Trevor Fitzroy, and he has Quick Strike, which means he is going to attack immediately when he comes into play if I'm in hero form. So if I was in alter ego form, then that Quick Strike wouldn't do anything because I'd be in hero form or alter ego form, and he wouldn't be able to attack me when I'm in alter ego form. But since I'm in hero form, he gets to attack me, and he will do that. Then, if I let him attack my ally, it says, after Trevor Fitzroy attacks and defeats an ally, if Portal Through Time is in play, that's the side scheme over here, place 2 threat on it. So, if I let him kill my ally, it will make it more difficult to get rid of this Portal Through Time, basically. Okay, so those are all shuffled in. All right, since I took no damage from that attack from Apocalypse, I think that I am going to go ahead and let this 3 damage from Fitzroy go ahead and hit Bishop rather than hitting my ally, since I don't want to make this even more difficult to thwart. So I'm going to go ahead and have this 3 damage go to me rather than to my ally. All right. And then after all that, I still have 1 more encounter card to resolve. So this one is Giant Sized Despot. So this was the superpower example that I showed you. So this one says, if he's in giant form, he activates against you. Otherwise, change him to giant form. So he's going to change to giant form. When he changes, so can't talk today. When he changes to giant form, after he changes to this form, heal 1 damage from him. So he's going to heal 1 damage. He's going to heal, and then when he heals, or when he changes to this form from the card, he also gets to place 1 power counter on the main scheme. So he's up to 2 power counters on the main scheme, which just makes it more likely for him to go find another one of these superpower cards again. When he's in this giant form, he doesn't fit in the little stand I have for him, so I'm just going to set him over here for now until he changes back to one of the normal sized forms. Okay, well, 3 encounter cards in 1 round, 3 minions, and Shadow of the Past was not how I expected that to go, but, well, that's just the way this game goes sometimes. All right, the other problem that I've been running into when I've been playing Bishop is I end up with situations like this where I have 5 resource cards in my hand that add up to like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a lot of resources. And then this is the rest of my hand where I could play my entire hand with 2 of these cards. So yeah, I like Bishop a lot. I really like the idea of his deck, but this has been happening to me a lot, and I don't know if it's just because I'm playing badly. I mean, there wasn't anything I could do about this. This was random. So I don't know. We'll see how this goes. I've really enjoyed playing as him, but it's been very difficult to get anything going because I'll get this giant hand of resources and then not be able to actually use it for anything right away. So anyway, we'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend 1 of my resource cards to play Danger Room Training. I'm going to attach this to an ally, and I'm going to attach it to Pixie because that's my only option at the moment. So she gets +1/+1 to her 2 stats, thwart and attack, and then she gets +1 hit point. So she's going to be able to stick around a little bit longer. So I'm going to attach that to her. Then I'm going to spend another 1 of my resource cards to play a player side scheme, which I have not gotten to show off yet. Player side schemes, they just added these into the game with a couple box expansions ago, the Next Evolution box. And with these are side schemes that players can actually put into play, and then they don't do anything bad. They just kind of sit there until you get rid of the threat from them, and then they do something good when you finish thwarting them. So this one says, when defeated, each player may search their deck and discard pile for a support with cost of 3 or less and put it into play. This put it into play wording is really important because put it into play means you just put it in play without having to pay for it. And that means that there are some things that you can ignore. So there's some requirements you can ignore and things like that. So you can just basically put any card you want into play that matches what this says. So any support, basically. So I'm probably going to want to do that fairly quickly. So I'm going to put that down. And that starts with 3 threat. And then all I have left is resource cards in my hand, so I'm going to want to hold on to those. And then I am going to, with Pixie, her attack is now 3, and her thwart is now 2. If I attack with her, she would get knocked out because she has +1 health, which puts her to 3 hit points, but she's already taken 1 damage. So since she takes 2 consequential damage when she attacks, she would get knocked out if I attack. If I thwart with her, then that would not be as big of an issue. So I'm going to need to get rid of some of these minions, though, because there are a lot of minions. So my side schemes are a priority, but I think my minions have to be my number 1 priority because they are big. So I think I am going to attack with Pixie, even though it will knock her out. And she deals 3 damage. And then Bishop can deal 2. So I think that I am going to use her 3 and Bishop's 2 to take out Fitzroy, because he has 5 health exactly. That way I'm not wasting any damage. And then he's got the most health, so I think I'm going to take him out. If I could take out both of these 2, I would. But I can only take out this one and not take out the other 2, or take out this one and not take out the other 2, or take out that one and not take out the other 2. And so if I can only get rid of one, I think he's the one that I should get rid of all of them. So then Pixie gets knocked out. And then while those minions are in play, oh man, so he's gonna go. Yeah, I was tempted to change to alter ego form so I didn't take big attacks, but he's got this acceleration icon right now, so he's actually going to gain 2 threat on the main scheme, which would bring him up to 3, 4, 5 from this guy, 6, and then he would scheme for 2, 7, 8, plus a card, and that would trigger this card going off, and I don't want to go off already this fast. So I'm just going to have to take some damage, I think. So I'm going to ready up my stuff. And draw up to my hand size, which is 5, so I'm going to be drawing 2 cards. Okay. All right, so then he's going to get... He would normally only get 1 threat, but he's going to get 2 because of the acceleration icon on Portal Through Time. And then he is going to attack me since I am in hero form. And he's going to attack me for 2. And just like last time, I'm just going to take it. So he's going to attack me for 2. And then after this activation, reveal this card. So for this activation, it doesn't do anything yet. So he's going to attack me for 2. I'm going to discard the top 2 cards of my deck. I did not get a resource for the first one. I did get a resource for the second one. So I add those to my hand. So I take 2 damage down to 7. And then I'm going to trigger Bishop's Uniform. I'm going to tap that and then heal for each resource card I have in my hand. I have 4 resource cards in my hand, so I'm going to heal 4 damage up to 11. But then I'm going to take attacks from both of these guys, so I'm going to take a total of 5 damage back and go back down to 6. Okay, and then this card said, after this activation, reveal this card. So this says, attach to Apocalypse and change him to giant form. He's already in giant form. When he attacks, you are stunned, then discard this card after this activation. So his next attack is going to be a +2, and he's going to stun me, but then this card will go away. I'm just going to set that on top of him so I don't forget. Okay, then I did forget to give him his next power counter when I gave him his threat. He should be at 3 now. This is only his second turn, but he gained an extra 1 last round. Okay, and then finally I have to deal myself an encounter card. Only 1 this time, and I got Temporal Trickery. So this is one of the cards I just shuffled in because of Shadow of the Past. So this says, discard a card in your hand with the most printed resource icons. Place 1 threat on each scheme for each resource icon on that card. So I'm going to have to get rid of either Strength or Genius and then add 2 threat to each scheme because there's 2 threat printed on these cards. I don't think it particularly matters which one I get rid of. So I'll get rid of Genius, and that adds 2 threat to each scheme. And then, because of Portal Through Time being in play, it says when a temporal card is revealed, it gains Surge. So this is a temporal card, so I have to do another encounter card. I spoke too soon when I said I only had to do 1 this round. Okay, Biomorphic Blast. When revealed, if Apocalypse is in Biomorph form, he is not. Otherwise, change him to Biomorph form and place 1 power counter on the main scheme. Okay, so he is going to change back to Biomorph form, which is the form he started the game in. After he changes to this form, deal 1 indirect damage to each player. So I'm going to take a damage. And then I could discard a card from the top of my deck. And if it's a resource card, I could add it to my hand, but I'm just not going to because I already have a ton of resource cards in my hand. And then, let's see. And then he gets a power counter on the main scheme. Now that he's at 4, it doesn't trigger immediately now that he's at 4. It will trigger at the beginning of his next turn. It will add a power counter, and then it will say, is he at least 4? He'll be at 5, so then he'll be at least 4, and then that's when you trigger all that stuff. So, all right. So then it is my turn. Okay, so I am going to spend 2 resources to play Utopia. This says if each of your allies has the X-Men trait, increase your ally limit by 1. So the ally limit is normally 3 allies in play at a time. If I only play X-Men allies, then I could have 4 X-Men allies in play at a time. And then if an X-Men ally enters play, I can exhaust this card to ready an X-Men character. So I'm going to play that. Then I'm going to play this card for free. I'm going to play Make the Call. And what that does is that allows me to pay the printed cost of an ally in my discard pile. Technically, it's any player's discard pile, but I'm the only player. So in any player's discard pile, and put that ally into play under my control. So I can basically play an ally from my discard pile. So the only one that has been discarded so far is Pixie from when she was discarded when she got knocked out. So I'm going to play her from my discard pile. So I need to pay 2 resources for that. And I am going to use, let's see, I'm going to use effective leadership as 1 resource, and then a second card as a second resource. So I'm going to discard 2 cards to pay for her. And effective leadership is when you spend this card to play an ally, that ally gets +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of the phase. And then I am going to use her attack of 3. I'm going to use her attack of 3 on, let's do, I think we should just get rid of the Badoon Warlord. So we'll use her attack of 3 plus, actually I can take him out. Okay, so let's do this instead. So I'm going to just use the Power of Leadership to play her, because the Power of Leadership counts as 2 resources when you're playing a blue card. So I'm going to just do that because effective leadership increases her stats, but I don't really need it to, because she would attack for 3 and I would still need to use Bishop to help her take out the Badoon Warlord. So we're going to use her to attack for 2 and then use Bishop to attack for 2, which will technically be a little bit of overkill on this guy, but that's fine. And so he gets knocked out. Pixie gets knocked out again because she takes 2 consequential damage when she attacks. So she gets knocked out again. And then we got rid of the Badoon Warlord. And then let's see, how could we have done this? Okay, so I could have attacked the Badoon Warlord for 2 with Bishop before I brought Pixie back into play. This was the whole thing I wanted to do, which is why I played Utopia first. So I should have attacked with Bishop first for 2 before I brought Pixie into play. Then brought Pixie into play, and then this Utopia says when a X-Men ally enters play, she's an X-Men ally, I can exhaust Utopia and ready an X-Men character. So I'm going to exhaust Utopia, and I'm going to ready Bishop because he is an X-Men character. Then Pixie would have come into play, taken out the Badoon Warlord. And now that I'm readied again, now I can use Bishop again. And I could either thwart for 2, or I could get rid of this Badoon Grunt. And I think I'm going to want to get rid of that Badoon Grunt because I'm going to be stunned next round because of this staggering strength card that Apocalypse got. I'm going to be stunned next round, and so I'm going to want to be able to do some damage now. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take out this Badoon Grunt, just get rid of all these minions, because I'm sure I'm going to get more, because like 1/3 of this deck that I've built is minions because of the encounter sets that I'm using. So I'm going to slide this build support over here now that I've gotten rid of all those minions, so I can slide these cards up a little bit. Okay, I've only got one card left in my hand, so I think we are good to go ahead and ready cards and draw up. So I'm going to draw up to 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and now it is Apocalypse's turn. He is going to start by getting 2 threat. He's still getting 2 because of that acceleration icon on Portal Through Time. And then he's going to gain a power counter, and he has at least 4. So it says if there are at least 4 power counters here, the first player removes 4. So we remove 4 power counters. And then discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a superpower card is discarded and reveal it. So, oh man. So now he has 2 staggering strength attached to him and change him to giant form. So not only did we have to deal with the staggering strength, we were going to have to deal with the staggering strength with a slightly less bad attack, but now he's coming to here. When he changes to here, he heals 1 damage. And then he's going to attack for 2, 4, 6 damage. I might die right here. This might be the shortest game ever. Okay, so I am going to immediately play this card. When an enemy attacks, shuffle each resource card in your discard pile into your deck. You cannot take more than 3 damage from this attack. This was the best possible time for me to get this card. So I'm going to play that. And I'm going to take all of the resource cards in my discard pile and shuffle them back into my deck. Which is a lot. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we counted earlier. I only had 11 resource cards, and I'm shuffling 6 of them back into my deck. So pretty good odds that I'm going to get some of those back. All right. So I'm going to be stunned next round, so I would prefer to keep myself readied so that I can use my basic attack to get rid of the stun. So I think I'm not going to defend it since I can only take 3 damage at most anyway. He's going to attack me for 6 plus put Badoon Grunt in play in front of me. See, I told you we were going to get more of these. And then, so he's going to hit me for 6. But because of this, I change it so that he can only hit me for 3 at most. So he's going to hit me for 3. I'm going to go down to 2. Then I'm going to trigger his ability, and I'm going to discard 3 cards off the top of my deck. 1, 2, 3. So 2 of them are resource cards. Those go to my discard pile, or to my hand, sorry. And then I'm going to trigger Bishop's Uniform and heal 1 for each resource card in my hand, which is 4. So I'm going to heal 4 and go back up to 6. Him attacking me ended up actually giving me 1 health. So because I started that with 5. And so all of that ended up making me actually have one more health than I started with. All right, so then this card says, put Badoon Grunt into play, engaged with you. After he engages you, if there are no other minions engaged with you, deal yourself 1 face down encounter card. So here's my face down encounter card. Okay, so that was his attack against me. And then I'm going to have 2 encounter cards this round. So, first one is a side scheme, Landing Craft. When defeated, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a minion is discarded. Put that minion in play engaged with the player who defeated this scheme. It's going to start with 2 threat. Eventually, one of these decks that we make by going in alphabetical order is going to be easier than it would normally be rather than more difficult. All right, and then we got another side scheme plugged in. When defeated, if Apocalypse is in Cyberpath form, he activates against the player who defeated this. Otherwise, change him to Cyberpath form. So basically, we want to defeat this when he's not in Cyberpath form, ideally, depending on the current situation of the game, obviously. We have so many things in play. All right, it is now my turn. Oh, and then he was supposed to discard these, and then he stuns me. All right, go in there. Okay, so then I am stunned. My stun cards are over here. Grab those. I'm going to get rid of that basically immediately, so it's okay, but... Okay, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that right away. So I'll just make a basic attack to get rid of the stun. And then... Oh man, I don't even know what to do right now. All right, I'm going to pay 2 to play Command Authority and remove 3 threat from a scheme. And since I paid for it with a resource card, I get to draw a card. And I am going to remove it from... let's do Portal Through Time. Let's remove 3 threat from there, and then I get to draw a card since I played a resource card for it. Okay, then I am going to play... let's do 4 resources, including Effective Leadership, to play Longshot from my hand. He is play only if your identity has an X-Men trait. Then, after Longshot attacks a non-elite minion, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If that card has a star icon in the boost area, defeat the attacked minion. So basically, if you've got a big enough minion that has more than 2 health, you can possibly defeat them with just that one attack if you get the right card off the top of the deck. I'm going to put him in play, and then I've got Utopia. So after an X-Men ally enters play, exhaust Utopia to ready a character. So I'm going to ready my Bishop card from over here. All right. And then since I paid for Longshot with Effective Leadership, he has +1 thwart and +1 attack until the end of the phase. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to use his +1 thwart and give him that 3 thwart. So he'll take 1 consequential damage. And I'm going to have him take out the Portal Through Time. We got to get rid of some of this side scheme craziness going on here. His main scheme, I think, is going to go off this turn, basically no matter what we do. I suppose I could have... instead of getting rid of Portal Through Time, I could have gotten rid of this side scheme because I can't remove any threat from the main scheme until I get rid of this. But if I get rid of all of this, then I probably won't have enough thwart left to get rid of anything from there anyway. So, yeah, I don't think that would really be all that helpful. Okay, so I just have one thing left that I can do. I can either thwart for 2 or attack for 2 with Bishop. And I think I am going to attack for 2 and just get rid of this minion. And I feel like I'm going to be spending all of my time doing that, and I'm never going to actually get to attack Apocalypse because I'm going to be spending all of my time attacking the ridiculous number of minions that are in this deck. But that is just what happens when we play with these weird deck builds. Okay, so I think that that's all I can do this turn. I'm deciding if I want to change to alter ego form because his scheme is going to finish no matter what I do. So I'm tempted to change to alter ego form so that I can heal a little bit. Not that I've been awful on damage, but I'm riding the line a little bit. So let's see what happens when this triggers. So when revealed, the first player discards cards from the top of the encounter deck until a superpower card is discarded. So when he goes to his second stage, he'll get a superpower card. And then his second scheme is exactly the same as his first one, where he'll build up power counters. The only thing that's different is the target value up here is slightly higher. So since it's going to go off anyway, I think I am going to go ahead and change to alter ego form. So when I change to alter ego form, I can take a temporal card in my discard pile and add it to my hand. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh man, really? Do I not have any? I took all those resource cards and shuffled them back into my deck, and I think that was all my temporal cards. Shoot. Maybe I don't want to do that then. Yeah, let's wait, because I might have more temporal cards in my discard pile later. So let's wait on that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and ready all my stuff. Let's go ahead and ready all this stuff. And then draw up to my hand size, which is 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I am going to his side scheme, or his main scheme is going to trigger. He was at 7 threat, and it's going to go up by 2. And that's also, and he's also going to get a counter. And so that's going to make that go off. His second scheme says when revealed, discard cards until you get a superpower card. So we're going to discard cards until we get a superpower card. Hopefully that means we get rid of some minions. It sure looks like we are getting rid of some minions, so that's good. Quite a few good cards that we're getting rid of here. There's a superpower card. All right, so we are going to reveal that superpower card. So this superpower card says, if Apocalypse is in Biomorph form, he activates. Otherwise, change him to Biomorph form. So he's going to go back to that Biomorph form and place a power counter on the main scheme. So he's up to 3 power counters on the main scheme. And then the main scheme, the new main scheme starts with 1 threat. Okay. Then he is going to attack me. And I think I have enough resource cards in my hand that I should be okay with not defending. So I'm not going to defend. So he's going to hit me for 2 plus this card, which is 0. So he hits me for 2. And I can discard 2 cards from my deck. I will. There's 1, 2. Oh man, neither of those were resource cards, and they were both really good allies. So hopefully I get another copy of Make the Call so I can play those from my discard pile. So neither of those were resources, so I don't get to add anything to my hand. But I do get to exhaust Bishop's Uniform and heal. I should take damage first, so I take 2. And then I get to heal 3 since I have 3 resource cards in my hand. So I go up to 7. Okay. And then I am going to get dealt an encounter card, which is Technological Interface. It says, if Apocalypse is in Cyberpath form, he activates. Otherwise, change him to Cyberpath form and place a power counter on the main scheme. So he's going to flip over to Cyberpath form. After he changes to this form, place 1 threat on each scheme in play. Does he have anything when he changes? Oh, so when he changed to this form, he should have dealt a damage to me. So I should have had 1 more damage, so I'll take that now. And then after he changes to this form, place 1 threat on each scheme. Holy cow. Okay, so we will put 1 here, bringing that up to 3. We'll put 1 here, we'll put 1 here, and we'll put 1 here. Okay. All right. And he was supposed to get a power counter from the Technological Interface card. Okay. The frustrating thing about what is happening in this game so far is that I feel like I'm actually maintaining against him fairly well. Like, I'm able to keep the minions down fairly well. I've got a lot of side schemes in play, but I've been doing okay. I just can't do any damage to him because I'm so focused on literally everything else. So, I am going to, it's my turn now. So I am going to, let's see. I need to get rid of some of these side schemes, I think. I don't have enough to get rid of this one. I could get rid of this one. I think I almost need to just do this one. I think I should do this one first, just because it's causing this to go faster. And then I could do this one, which will let me actually get stuff off of this one. This one I don't ever actually need to do. It's just there if I have time to do it because it's helpful to me. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this card into play, Supercharged. It costs nothing, so that just goes down. And what it does is, as an action, I can discard cards, discard resource cards from my hand, and place charge counters on them for each resource on that card. Then, if I make a basic attack, I can discard Supercharged and get +2 attack for this attack for each charge counter here to a maximum of +8 attack. So I was just talking about how I can't really do any damage to him, but I'm going to be able to do a bunch of damage to him right now. So what I'm going to do is, basically what that means is the most counters I can put on here is 4, because the max that I can gain is +8, and each counter is +2. So I need to discard 4 resources to make this as good as I can make it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to discard these 4 resources and put those 4 counters on it, but then I'm just going to immediately use it, and I'm going to attack for 2 plus the 8 from this card, which is going to be a total of 10, and I'm going to attack him for 10. Wasn't able to do hardly any damage to him, and now all of a sudden there's, boom, 10 damage. And then, while he's in Cyberpath form, he has Retaliate 1, which means I'm going to take 1 damage for that. And then that is not an attack. Retaliate is not an attack, so that does not trigger his ability here. Then I'm going to put another Supercharged into play just to have it in play. And then I'm going to have Long Shot. I'm going to have him thwart just because we're struggling so much with thwarting. And I'm going to get rid of it off of this scheme here. And he thwarts for 2. So we'll do that. And then I think we are good for that turn. So now is the question, now do I want to change to alter ego form? So he would go up to 4, 5, 6. He would likely not he would probably not end the game, but I don't think I want to risk it. So I think I'm going to stay in hero form and ready up all my cards and draw up to my hand size of 5. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. And then he is going to get 2 threat, which brings him up to 4. He would gain a power counter, but then he'll be at least 4, so I'm just going to take these 3 off because he would go up to 5 and then take 4 off, which means he'd be left with 1. And then he's going to discard cards from the top of the deck until he gets a superpower card. Again, hopefully, yes, I am totally okay with getting rid of all of these minions. Of course, going through his deck quickly is a bad thing, but getting rid of those minions I am okay with. All right, if Apocalypse is in giant form, otherwise change him to giant form and place a power counter on the main scheme. So he's going to change to giant form. When he changes to giant form, he heals a damage. Of course, he can't let me have nice things. I just dealt all that damage to him. All right, and then he gets a power counter. And then he is going to attack me. I think... I am, let's see. I think I'm just going to keep taking it since I still have resource cards in my hand. I should check how many resource cards I have in my discard pile. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 6, 7. So I only have 4 resource cards left in my deck. Four out of 12 cards in my deck are resource cards. That's not bad odds. Yeah. I'm not going to defend it, so I'll just take it. I'm going to take 2, 5. Oh, no. I just lost. Dang it. I should have defended. All right, that's 5 because then I would have to take 5, which would put me down to 0, and then I could trigger his thing. Oh, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 3 of those were resource cards. If I had defended... Man, even if I had defended, let's say I had defended, I would have gone down to 1. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 resource cards in my hand. So I would do that, and then I would heal 5 and go back up to 6. You know what? Let's just say I did that. I know it's technically cheating, but we're just here to have fun. And let's just see what happens. I should have defended it. I knew in my heart of hearts I should have defended it. So let's just say I did. I mean, yeah. I should have defended it because 5 is the max damage that he could have done. So, like, I should have just defended it. That way he couldn't outright destroy me there. That was just bad gameplay on my part because I had exactly 5 health and I knew that this doesn't matter if I die first. I literally explained that at the beginning of the game. So, that was bad on my part. I technically cheated. We're going to move on. Hopefully you don't all hate me for it. For the longest time, actually, we didn't know that you were supposed to make the decision to defend. We were playing it wrong. We thought you could make the decision to defend before you revealed the boost card. So we were waiting until the boost card was revealed and then deciding if we were defending or not. And it wasn't until, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 months after we played the game for the first time that we realized that you're supposed to decide if you're defending or not before you reveal the boost card. So there will be times where I still catch myself doing it, where I'll be playing and I'll grab the boost card and flip it over. I'll be like, oh crap, I was supposed to decide if I wanted to defend or not. All that kind of stuff. Really what I probably should have done in that situation is probably just had Longshot take it. But we'll just move on. Okay, so he attacked me. I took damage. I healed. And then we are going to get an encounter card. The encounter card is that he attacks me. Well, that seems like karma for cheating. All right. This time, since I can't defend it, and I already feel bad for kind of cheating, I'm going to go ahead and have Longshot take it this time. So he's going to attack for 2. That's funny. I have this card shuffled in into the encounter deck for every game. I just have this in there all the time now. This is from the Mojo expansion. This is a card that they gave in the Mojo expansion, and you can just have this shuffled in at all times. If it's revealed as an encounter card, then it's basically a free ally, so he comes into play as a free ally, and then you have to get a different encounter card to replace it. And so the boost card that is taking out Longshot is Longshot. See, if I had just packed up and called it done, we wouldn't have had that awesome moment just now. I'm trying to justify it to myself. All right. So now we're going to go to my turn. And we are going to charge up that supercharged. We don't want to, like, crazy overcharge it because actually no, this is fine. So what we're going to do is we are going to pay 3 resources. So we're going to pay 3 resources and we're going to play Concussive Blast because that deals 6 damage to an enemy. And since I paid for it with a resource card, I ready Bishop. So I'm going to ready myself and knock this down to 1. And then I'm going to let's see. Then I'm going to just do a basic attack of 2. I think, to get rid of his first mode. So I'm going to knock him down to 0 and get rid of stage 1. We're only halfway through the game. Oh boy. And then stage 2 comes into play and he just stays in the same form he was in. So he didn't change form. He's just changing stage. As far as I'm aware, that is how the rule works. And then I am going to discard. Oh, how much health does he go up to? He goes up to 20. And then he, let's see, I am going to discard two. I'm going to discard 4 resources. 4 resources to put 4 counters on supercharged. So that next round I can hit him for a big attack of 10 again, as long as I don't get stunned. And then that's going to be it for that. And I am going to go ahead and flip this time, I think. So he's going to go up to 6, 7, 8. Oh, man, I can't. I got to keep staying in or hero form because his scheme with all this stuff is just slightly too big and he'll win. All right, so we'll see what happens. This time I promise I will defend, probably. Well, I would like to not defend because I need to make a basic attack to make supercharged actually go off. So I'm drawing up to my hand size. And then we are going to have him do his turn. So he's going to get 2 threat. And then he's going to get a power counter. And then he's going to attack me. And I'm going to do my best not to die. So I'm not going to defend. So he's going to attack me for 3. 4, 5, 6. Oh my god. How does that keep happening? All right, I'm not going to cheat again. We're just going to call it there. Oh, man. If I had defended, it would have been 5. I would have gone down to 1 again. I would have discarded cards from my deck. I would have healed. And I would have healed 1, 2, 3. I would have gone back up to 4 health. Man. All those minions at the beginning were just ridiculous. I had 3 minions in play. I had the Shadows of the Past come in. I just couldn't do it. Could not do it. This is the best I've gotten Bishop to work by far, aside from losing, obviously. We made it through the campaign. We played 7 games in the campaign, so we lost twice and had to replay 2 of the scenarios. But having his uniform out right away at the beginning of the game feels like it is just necessary. Like, I don't know how you get through the game otherwise. I needed the other card that he has in his kit that I needed to come out is his rifle, which is going to deal damage basically based on resource cards you have in your hand. Here it is. So Bishop's rifle is exhaust it and deal a damage to that enemy for each resource card in your hand with ranged. So it ignores retaliate is what ranged does. And then I also have a copy of Sharpshooter in here, which is when you make a ranged attack, it deals 1 additional damage for each resource icon discarded off of a card from the top of your deck. And those 2 cards together also feel like they would have been good. Obviously, in this scenario, I would have been able to attack the minions a lot quicker. I would have been able to attack the villain a lot quicker. Because there were a couple turns where I had 5 resource cards in my hand, so I could have dealt 5 damage. Boom, right there. It really feels like if he doesn't have his uniform and his rifle out, that it's going to be really tough to get him to work. But if you do have his rifle and his uniform out, he feels very powerful. So I understand why they didn't have his uniform or his rifle be setup cards that start in play. I do wish that one of them, either the uniform or the rifle, was a card that started in your hand, just because they both feel so vital to the way his deck runs that I feel like one of them should be a setup to start in your hand. I understand not wanting to put them in play because that would be pretty overpowered. I understand wanting to still have to pay to have them be put in play. But I've had games where I didn't get either of them. I've had multiple games as him where I didn't get either of them, and I feel like those were the games where I struggled the most. And only having one of them, I still was barely holding on during this game, and technically lost twice because I cheated once and then decided I was no longer cheating anymore. So, all right, well, that one was a lot of fun, even though I lost. I actually really enjoyed getting him to work fairly well. So next it will be, I believe, Black Panther is next, and it will be Black Panther versus the first version of the Collector from the Galaxy's Most Wanted expansion. So be watching for that video. Thanks for watching, everyone.